And I think that Newton will never be Nanjing, China either. And I just hope that at some point someone steps back and says, hey, wait a sec, the number of bikes in the road, particularly at the rush hour, in bad weather, in darkness, we will in the future have some pretty bad stories to cover with this profusion of bike paths.
So I'm sensing we have another show for another time.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me turn to Leslie. You know, one of the things that topped the news at the beginning of the year was the water main break. And since you are with the Globe in more of a regional type of capacity, as you know, editor of the Western stuff, for lack of a better phrase, that was a pretty huge story. Is the infrastructure set up in such a way where we have the ability to deal with these things in the future? Was this a fluke? Was this handled well? I know. What was the story with that?
Well, I was ready to talk about bikes, but anyway, I don't think that. I mean, obviously the infrastructure is ancient. It has branches that we're not even aware of. You know, the whole water main system was installed, you know, decades and decades and decades ago. And I think, unfortunately, we often don't know what's wrong with it until there's an emergency. I think that, you know, it's one of these deferred maintenance things that comes and surprises us.
How do we do?
Well, we covered that day and the several days of the break. You know, we watched how a number of our communities were responding, and some of the communities had more flooding than Newton did. And my sense was that the city responded pretty quickly and, you know, dealt with people's problems.
Okay.
Charlie, there's an example of where Mayor Warren really, where his communication skills really shined. He got on top of that immediately. I believe he got a phone call right from the MWRA, like as soon as that broke, and he made sure that every avenue there was to get that word out. You know, it was first, don't use your water, before it was, you know, the boil water order, and he was right on that, and he actually found me immediately so that we could get the word out on Wicked Local Newton.
Well, then handing out the water from that, Governor Patrick. I think his re-election campaign got a huge boost because he handled that so effectively.
Okay. So again, it's the trash, it's the water, it's delivering the basic services, and that's the foundation of all of it.
Communications. Yeah.
Let me switch around for a second because there's a lot to cover and never enough time to do it. Business in Newton. Newton has historically not had the reputation of always being the most possible business-friendly community.
Yes.
Primarily, we're obviously a residential community. People like that. That's why they live here. That's why they move here, schools and just the residential feel of it. But at the same time, we have diminishing resources, and commercial revenue is really one of the primary areas where we can derive new revenue. This was an interesting year because things that, and see if let's start with Jen this time, but see if you agree with this. It seems that in previous years, it would take literally forever to get anybody a new license or a waiver to bring a business other than a nail salon or a bank into Newton Center. And now, recently, Chestnut Hill Square on Route 9 was approved unanimously, of all things. Panera in Newton Center, the Station Diner, all of these places getting waiver upon waiver, which can mean a couple of different things. What do you see it mean?
Revenue driven. I think Newton needs the money. The revenue's not coming in, and our expenses are extremely high. So you need those businesses in Newton Center on Chestnut Hill. That was a vacant lot, not making any money. And you know, Chestnut Hill Square, that project's been going on for almost 10 years. So that one finally came to fruition after 10 years and right before the deadline. So I think it's revenue driven.
Did that surprise anybody here? That all of this new business development that would normally, I mean, obviously that particular piece of property took some time, but when the actual proposal came to the table, it went through relatively quickly during the final steps. Is anybody surprised at that?
Over and over, though.
I think people were really tired of seeing that eyesore. along Route 9. It's been, the Omni store has been vacant for years, and
Since the
people,
fire, actually.
yeah, and people like, I mean, I think it's exciting because it seems like, you know, the city is livening up, and the same with Panera coming into Newton Center. I think to me, it seems like it brings more people to the whole village, and, you know, to other businesses as well. You know, and you go there in the afternoon, and there are all these kids from, you know, Newton North and Newton South having sandwiches, and it's kind of exciting that the city is, you know, kind of filling these holes, I think.
I think with Chestnut Hill Square, the aldermen realized that New England Development really might have bailed and their, you know, the opportunity was about to expire, and they might have bailed, and there wasn't going to be another chance, and 10 years was enough chances. So I think that's why that finally went through.
Is that a success of the Warren administration, or of the aldermen, of a citizenry that is now looking at things differently to try to be more open and welcome? In other words, was this the year that Newton started to become business friendly? Anybody want to take a stab at that one?
I will put a good word in for my good friend Don Johnson, who is now the president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Newton Needham.
Not the one from Miami Vice, though, right?
Not that Don Johnson. No, this Don Johnson, I'm sure, is just as good a looking gentleman. He and his wife Lynn are dear friends. They've lived in Newton for several years, and Don's a Newton native. And he and I have talked about what he hopes to do as the president of Newton Needham Chamber of Commerce, and that is to make the community more friendly to businesses, to the current businesses and to new businesses. And if you knew Don Johnson, you know he'll do a good job.
And I would not be at all surprised if aldermen are starting to be aware that the budget is in serious, under serious stress, and that they've got to start letting new business come in without such a fight.
Yeah, you mean the $8 million in the hole?
That's what I mean.
Right, that would be stressful, actually,
Yes.
wouldn't it? All right, so we've got a number of different hot button issues that I want to make sure we have time to get to, and those are always the juicy ones. They're not necessarily as substantive policy issues. They may be still remembered 10 or 12 years from now. They may be a flash in the pan, but here are the ones that I have. I have dog parks. I have lunch ladies, cafeteria workers. We had, at the beginning of the year, a little discussion about Guantanamo and the thoughts on that. And we are smack dab in the middle of an ongoing discussion about snow. Where shall we start with that? Have we accomplished anything so far? It feels like we have, but the collective we. How about dog parks? That was something that went on for a long. Any dog owners here?
I was a dog owner, and I am in favor of dog parks.
Okay.
Okay. I think dogs add immensely to the community, and I think that the community should welcome not only new residents but new dogs as they come along.
So,
as a matter of fact, we were at an adoption location this afternoon at the MSPCA looking at some dogs. I don't understand why people are so averse to dogs. I really don't.
So we need to be welcoming of four-legged new residents too, basically.
Absolutely, and I'm much more concerned about dogs than I am about the inmates at Guantanamo Bay. Call me old-fashioned, call me conservative, but I am more concerned about the freedom of dogs than I am about terrorists at Guantanamo. That probably puts me out of step with most residents in Newton, but I'm proud to say that.